morning, this is Casey. I'm just giving you a little bit of an instruction here on Google Forms. This is probably a part one because I'm just going to show you what it is and how to set up a Google form, and then I'll do another video later about what you do with that information. Google Forms is a way of getting information from people in a very low maintenance way where you don't have to do a lot of back and forth emailing. So let's get into it. I'm on the Google website. Obviously, my browser is a Chrome browser, but you can use Internet Explorer or whatever you're using. Upper right-hand corner, mine says sign in, which means you have to have a Google account to do this. So step one would be to make sure you have a Google account. I have all of my church stuff is here on this one, so you can use your church email to set it up and sign in. That's also where you could keep some extra documents and stuff like that. So make sure you have a Google account. Assuming you've done that, you have to sign in. You'll know you've signed in when you see this icon up here. Now, what we're using is Google Forms. So the fastest way I get to it is just to put in Google Forms. There's probably a better way, but that's how I get to it. There's the little icon for Google Forms. It's part of this suite of web software. This is like Microsoft Word, this is like Excel, this is like PowerPoint, but who cares? We're worried about this right now. Google Forms. Let me tell you one thing before we get into it. If you haven't used Google before, and like Google Forms, Google Docs, the weirdest thing to me coming from like a PC or other software is the fact that you don't hit save. It saves on its own, and it's very uncomfortable for me every time I exit out of something because I'm like, did it save? And it always saves, but I'll show you that later. So we're going to set up a form. Now, why would we use this? Let's say that we're needing to know the choir's t-shirt and shoe sizes for whatever reason. When I open up Google Forms, you'll see that I have some templates up here that I could go to, but I'm just going to start from scratch because I think it'll be more clear cut for you to learn that way. Notice here, I don't have any forms. If I had made any before, they would be shown down here. Let's make one. Notice this blue line right here because that will be important later. This is the area of our form that we're working on. We're creating a form just like a paper form that you fill out. Whatever you want to write there. Okay, this is the title of our form. This is a little description. Now by default, Google Forms says, well, I'm going to give you this first question down here. When I click down here, notice the blue line jumps down here. Now I'm not working with the title anymore. I'm working with the first question. Okay. By default, it says your first question, you may want it to be multiple choice. And actually we do because we're asking about like shirt sizes and shoe sizes. But if I go over here and click, there are other options. Drop down menus, different things that we'll get into later. Doesn't matter. But we do want this to be a multiple choice question. So let's say that we want t-shirt size, which you probably already have this information, but just example. I tab down to get to that next line, but you can also click on the thing. Don't medium, and I can't type, it doesn't matter right now. Adult, large. Also, if you hit enter, it'll go down to the next one. Anyway, let's pretend that you got all your sizes in there that you needed. It's bugging me that that's not spelled right. Okay. This is a question that we want them to answer. They have to answer it. So you click on that. By default, this is not clicked, but we want them to answer almost every question. Once we're done with this question, that's pretty much it. We can add now we need to add another question. So what do? This is where we go to this little square right here. If we just click that, it'll just add another question. We could also put in a different title, like now tell us about your shoes, or a picture of said shirt or shoe that we're ordering them, video, or a different section. But most of the time it's going to be the first one. shoes. I cannot type today. Shoe size. Just like we did before. But let's mix it up a little bit. Let's say, well, let's go ahead and give them a drop-down menu. This is what that would look like. And I'm just going to put in random numbers. 9, 15. A women's wide 15. That's an alto. And then we hit required. Now, maybe I said, well, I need another shoe size. I really want them to see that first. You can click and drag these things right there. So you can move it on up. If I did it correctly, you can move it on up to the top and it'll be at the top. But see how I click from those and it just goes from section to section? I haven't saved anything, but Google has. So even though we haven't really hit save, it's saved. It's already knows that this is happening. If I screw up on a section or I don't need it, I can always, like if Ray comes in and says, we're not getting them shoes, we come back in and we delete that right there. That would get rid of our section. Right now, let's leave it. Let's pretend that our form is done. We've got all the information we need is there. What is it doing with this? Well, it's taking this information and it collects it. So after we're finished with this form, we're going to send this out as like a link, like just through regular email, and then give them a deadline to do it, to fill it out, and then it populates a spreadsheet with that information, and then that becomes our source document to use when we order the shirts or the shoes or whatever we're doing. So there's not as much back and forth of, hey, can you give me a shoe size? Sure. Will you text me? Whatever. And so anyway, when we go over here, if I was to click send right now, I could just email it out, but it would come from my Gmail account. And I usually just like to copy the link is how I usually do that. But before we do that, let's back out of this for a little bit and let's show you what's happening here. Exiting out of all this stuff. When we started, this is where we were, right? Just plain old Google. And we made sure you had a Gmail account. And we signed in. Boom. And then we went to Google Forms, because that's the name of the game today. And because I'm signed in as me, when I go to the forms, now it shows this one that we made. And I can rename it here. Shoes and shirts. All right, so now this is our form and it's ready. I can send this out now to the people. So I click on it. I go to send. I go up here where this little linky doodad is, and I'm gonna copy that link, because what I prefer to do, it's up to you, I like to go to my Outlook at that point and send it from my Outlook. So I just go to Outlook, send an email as normal. Hey y'all, shirts and shoes, answer by Friday. You would word it much better than I am right now. And then what I do is I just paste the link here. Now some of you computer people are like, why don't you just make a hyperlink out of the one word? Well, you could do that. Like I could say, answer this form, and then I could highlight the word form, go up to hyperlink, paste the link. That turned blue, so now they can click on that. But I found that with our volunteers, sometimes they ignore those things. So I'll put it there and I'll put it there, et cetera, et cetera. And just as a tip, whenever, I'm sure you do this already, whenever you send these out, I always try to put everybody in the BCC line, because we don't really want them seeing each other's email addresses. Not that it's that big of a deal, but it's just a kind of a privacy courtesy. So try to put everybody in that line. Anyway, so this is kind of a getting started thing for Google Forms. I'll send out another email that shows you what to do with that information once you have it. But this is at least how to build it and how to get it started. So I hope it helps you, and give me a holler if you need any help. Thanks. Bye.